Welcome to Zeiss Full Exposure, the video podcast that goes behind the scenes with some of the industry's most innovative visual storytellers. Now here's your host, photographer and filmmaker, Jim Camp.
At the 2019 Photo Plus Expo in New York, we took a backseat to listen in on a live presentation by old friend and rock and roll photographer Greg Waterman. Let's eavesdrop and take a look at Greg talking about his favorite glass and some techniques, how he shoots both backstage and on.
Hi everybody, my name is Greg Waterman. I'm a photographer, I'm a Zeiss lens ambassador, but more importantly, and the point of this presentation, I've been using Zeiss lenses for my entire career as a photographer. They're sort of part of who I am even at this point. They literally define the quality of my images, which is one of the things that I'm known for. And through the decades now of using these lenses, which I'm going to show you, you'll sort of see, hopefully, not a difference as I went through my career, different formats, different cameras, from digital to film, and all the way back to when I started. What you'll kind of hopefully notice is a consistency in color palette, skin quality, and just overall look to my images that I've maintained and helped keep consistent through the gear that I use, specifically the lenses. So I'm going to start with a few pictures that I've done this year and then work backwards to the beginning of my career. This is just recently System of a Down. I've been their principal photographer now for 18 years. I travel around the world with them, documenting their concerts. I'm in the studio when they record. I'm in the hospital when their children are born. I'm at their weddings. Pretty much anything that they deem important enough to have documented, I'm there. This picture was taken recently backstage in Columbus right before they went on stage. By the way, that's ISO 12800. Most of the pictures that I take are a very high ISO. That's a normal range for me to operate in. This focal length, 35 millimeter or 40, you'll see several times throughout the presentation. It's my favorite focal length to use. It's the one that sort of allows me to get in close enough to what I want to capture and give the viewer a feeling of that they were really there, as opposed to taking pictures from really far away. I don't shoot a concert with a 300 millimeter lens on a tripod from the opposite end of the arena. I'll be literally standing on stage or backstage right behind the artist that I'm photographing. Also, what I'm currently using is Sony mirrorless cameras. Is everybody familiar with mirrorless cameras? Is there anybody who's not? If you're not, please go check out a mirrorless camera. Sony's, Canon's, Nikon's, anybody's. These cameras are what everybody is going to be shifting to eventually. By definition, you will have to. These cameras are shooting at a higher level of quality, providing more features and enabling you to do things that you cannot do with a camera with an optical viewfinder. You should definitely not be afraid of the red button on your camera. You need to learn to shoot video if you want to be a content creator in the near future, meaning tomorrow. Video is overtaking photography as the most engaged and the most important thing on the internet right now. More people look at videos and spend more time watching videos than they do looking at photos. That doesn't mean, however, that the importance and necessity of photography, or photos rather, is going to disappear. But it does mean that if you want to produce images as an occupation, you're going to have to be able to do it both ways. I've already lost clients now and gained clients because of that feature, that one camera can now do both jobs. In this shot particularly, this is John Travolta as Pitbull. Pitbull's another one of my clients that I work with. We were doing a music video for Pitt's new song, and John was the main actor in the video. This photograph, though, is not from a RAW file and it's not from a JPEG. It's just my 4K video footage paused and turned into a photograph. This is something that I do all the time now. 50% of every job that I do is video. Sometimes if something's happening really, really important, I'll just let my video roll and worry about pulling my photos out of the video footage afterwards. This is a super easy thing to do, and especially with now modern cameras and shooting image stabilized 4K video, it's not even that difficult. It's definitely something that you need to learn to do in the future. Hybrid photography or hybrid image capture is something that's here now, and you need to be aware of it and need to be prepared for it. It's another shot I just did recently, again, the same focal length. This is also ISO 10,000. We were just in a parking garage in Miami Beach, 3 o'clock in the morning. The challenge with something like this, I was hired by Chris to roll with him for the 12-hour period while they were documenting their video together. This is from the No Guidance video shoot, by the way. Anytime I'm working with an artist, especially for the first time, I always have to be aware of how close I can get to them, because I know that they want that look that I usually give with use a shorter focal length lens, but at the same time I know that I can't get too close to him. Especially remember, this guy's been thrown in jail before for hitting photographers in the face. But again, this picture also demonstrates kind of what I'm known for, a totally available light. I never use a flash. This is a band called The Struts. They're brand new, not brand new, but relatively new. They're from London, England. I was rolling with them for a few years, did some videos for them and some photos. Again, this picture, this is not a photo shoot. This is not lit. This is not an organized, stylized thing. This is a picture of them in their bathroom, dressing room, right before they were getting ready to walk on stage, which is one of the best times to shoot a band. They're in their moment, they're in their gear, they're ready to go, they can hear the fans outside screaming, and so it's one frame. They're like walking like this, like, guys, let's get a photo. They stop, bang, one picture, and then they go on. 10 times better than any picture you would get setting up lights and styling it and getting everything ready and let's shoot this guy this way and that guy that way. This is my preferred way to capture rock and roll energy, even as a group shot that they wind up using for publicity. Again, another picture of System of a Down. This is in 2015, Yerevan, Armenia, their first time to play in Armenia, which is the country that they're from. There's 50,000 people standing there in the rain watching the show. To give you a further idea of how important a photograph like this is to the band, they have a 60-inch wide print of this hanging on their wall with the camera that I took that picture with in a glass cube next to the photograph. And that's not even the first time that they've done that. I've shot several pictures for them before where they were so impressed by the photo that they wanted the camera retired under glass next to the photo on the wall. That's a client that's a true fan when you have that going on. Oh, by the way, and this is ISO 12,800. This is shot on a Sony A7S Mark II. That's a 12 megapixel camera. 12 megapixels, 12,800. So for all you pixel peepers out there, peep that. I mentioned Pitbull before with the John Travolta picture. Here he is again a couple of times. I've been his personal photographer and videographer for 8 years now. He really, truly is Mr. Worldwide. I've been to 5 continents with him. The challenge with him has been, I've literally photographed him over 400 times, probably 300 concerts even. So the challenge there is, imagine shooting not a wedding every other day, but the same wedding every other day for years. Like, you know when he's gonna toss the bouquet, you know who's gonna catch it, like that. That becomes a real challenge. One of the ways that I deal with that to keep variety, because he's expecting pictures every single night from every single show. Obviously, they can't be the same things. One of the ways that I do that is changing up lenses. I typically don't use zoom lenses. I prefer to use primes for all of the right advantages for using primes. But using a prime also puts you in a certain frame of mind and a certain focal length. Stick with that focal length for a while and then just shoot the concert with only that lens, even though you'd rather have a different lens for a particular image. Sometimes that winds up giving you pictures that you wouldn't get otherwise. Case in point, some of you might notice that's a Zeiss Otis 55. That's a manual focus lens, manual focus only. A comment that I'd like to make about that though, I've been shooting for over 30 years professionally, manual focus for almost that entire time. And this isn't an endorsement. I buy my Sony cameras, they don't give them to me, but this is the camera, the A9, that switched me over to autofocus. If you're not an autofocus person, I suggest that you look at the new autofocus technology. Face registration, IAF, crazy stuff that I don't care how good you are, you could never do. So yeah, I've been, all this stuff that you're seeing on here is manual focus, except for the stuff that I shot in the last 2 years. This is Zoe, a band from Mexico. I shot this entire job for them just to sort of see if I could on a Sony RX1. I mentioned I've been shooting Sony mirrorless from the beginning. from 2013. That's how long I've been on Sony mirrorless. This is on an RX1. Again, my favorite focal length, 35 millimeter. And again, you see I'm pretty much given the ability to stand wherever I want to stand because my clients are expecting to get images from me that have that more immersive feeling, not pictures shot from far away or from the other side of the venue. Toby Keith, another artist that I've worked with for years. I've had album covers, single covers. This is sort of an example of, I don't really have my background is metal, but my genres that I'll photograph don't matter. What I focus on, pun intended, and sort of feed off of in my images is the energy that any person who's a rock star has. Anybody that's can get up on stage and do that and make people happy and make people lose their mind and forget about their problems for a second. That's what I focus on when I'm capturing my clients and my images. I'm just looking for that amazing personality that they have. This picture, for example, this is an album cover. I was told that I had 5 minutes with him on his tour bus, that I couldn't talk to him, that I couldn't bother him, no lights, no anything else. I was just allowed on the bus. So I parked myself in the corner, put on a 135 all the way open, and just took pictures of him while he was talking to his friends. He's actually telling a joke to somebody about golf at that moment. Click, bang, I got the frame. He's happy, he loved it. It was an album cover, and it took no time out of his day. So again, that's what I'm primarily hired by my clients for, is to just capture moments and document things that they're doing that then they can use to promote themselves and push their own products and messages, etc. 2009 Lil Wayne, again, my favorite focal length, and again, I'm right there trying to get the whole thing. Lil Wayne's an interesting guy. A lot of my clients actually prefer to not engage with me and are almost ignoring me being in the room, and I'm just sort of following them around, capturing what they're doing. He's very much that way. He doesn't want any part of anything of what's going on. He just wants to come in, do his thing, and leave. Butthole Surfers, 1994, old school punk band. This was for Rolling Stone. Back in the day when I first started on film, I was actually a studio photographer in the beginning, so when I started shooting on location, I felt the need to manufacture my light everywhere I went. So this is like a softbox and complicated Broncolor stuff and infrared transmitters and stuff that really wasn't necessary at the time and definitely is not necessary now with what you can do with available light. You know, as I mentioned before, I can really much shoot at just about any ISO I can think of at this point. Certainly I can shoot at a higher ISO than what the human eye can actually see. This was the shoot that sort of switched me over to being a music photographer completely. When I started my career in the 80s here in New York City, I was a fashion photographer, shooting for most of the major magazines, Elle, Glamour, Mademoiselle, Self, 17, Modern Bride, etc. Editorial for that, and then advertising and catalog afterwards. But Rolling Stone and Spin started noticing my portraits that I was doing in the fashion magazines and started having me shoot portraits for them. And I mean little portraits, like tiny little ones. You'll see one or two soon. But people at the very beginning of their career, when they walk in the door and you don't even know who they are. That led eventually to getting things like features and covers for this one. This one was still, to this day, 1992, that's a while ago, right? Still to this day, this is the most difficult photo shoot I've ever done in my career. Primarily because, you remember, anybody who knows Nirvana knows the story, knows that Kurt was very anti-being famous and anti-establishment and anti-pretty much everything. I can totally back that up. Yes?
So what's your approach with reluctant subjects?
The question is, what's my approach with reluctant subjects? The best thing to do is just to try to keep it natural and not push them too hard. A lot of people are, lots of different posing tricks, and I'll do that and mix people up, maybe try to lean one person this, but you can't push people out of their comfort zone because that becomes really apparent, especially with celebrity portraits, but probably with portraits in general. You're just shooting a real person. You have to walk a line anytime you're photographing somebody, especially if they're famous and they're already walking in the door with a little bit of importance around them. You can't push them too far and make them uncomfortable. So you try to keep it natural, make suggestions, take breaks, move fast. Don't take too much time. Don't be screwing around setting things up. Just start clicking. Put your favorite lens on there, have it all set up ahead of time, and just bang, 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 and get them out of the... What you ideally want them to say is like, oh, okay, that wasn't bad. then you did your job.
The Zeiss Bodice, engineered exclusively for Sony's full-frame mirrorless camera system, made to capture exceptionally sharp images with high micro-contrast for corner-to-corner clarity. Designed to give you control over depth of field and focus distance, even in low light via the unique OLED display, built to portray your subjects authentically. The Zeiss Bodice lens works with you to achieve your vision. That's inspiration made by Zeiss. Thanks for tuning in. Join us next time for another edition of Full Exposure. To listen to an extended version of this interview, go to ZeissFullExposure.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about the latest equipment from Zeiss, head over to Zeiss.com. This has been a production of Shugart Studios.